Hey guys, I'm working on a art project, a stop motion photography project, and thought I'd do a little behind the scenes. The prompt is from Art 52, and this is also light and dark homework for the Gloom and Glow course. I already shot this once, but I wasn't completely happy with it, so I am doing it again, and this time I thought I would just shoot a little behind the scenes because my course mates for Gloom and Glow had some questions about how I was doing everything. So these are cutouts, and I did not cut these by hand. I let my Silhouette cutting machine do the work for me. I drew all of these myself on my digital tablet, which I bought thanks to my Patreon patrons. And I started sketching by hand, but I'm not very skilled at drawing people. I'm not very practiced at it. So I ended up doing it on the computer so I could kind of draw and redraw and erase and redraw without using a million different pieces of paper. So that's kind of why I ended up doing that. So they're partly hand drawn and not computer generated, but it was on the computer. It wasn't with, analog materials. So the theme is falling down rabbit holes, and that's what I'll be doing for 2018. And so I tried to illustrate just little kind of pieces that show the things I'll be doing, like photography and video, sewing, I'm starting a podcast, gardening, and then some little creative books and crafts and cooking type things. So for my first draft, which I will show you here, it turned out pretty good, but not exactly how I had imagined. I have been sick since Christmas. So for 2 weeks, like the day after Christmas, I got bronchitis. And for 2 weeks, I've been imagining this. And so I wanted it to be the way it was in my mind, and it just wasn't quite there. So one of the problems I had, here, let me show you my setup. So this is a light box that I bought for $30, believe it or not. I'll link to it down below. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cough still. So it's supposed to be on a stand, and I bought it because I was struggling with making YouTube videos in winter, and I thought for $30 it was worth a try. So this is my light box, and the stand made it too tall, so I've just put it in this box of stuff that belongs in the office but I haven't put away. And let me see, it's not plugged in, so I can't turn it on right now. I'll do that in a second. So for the first draft, I put tissue paper, but it moved around too much. That was my main problem, is when I was shooting, the background was moving. I wanted the background to be stationary. So what I realized I could do to help me with that, also there was too much light coming through, so the first time I had put this fabric down between the light and the tissue paper. And I thought I could kind of kill two birds with one stone by gluing it to poster board. Sorry about that shadow, you guys. And I decided while I was at it to make it kind of wavy, like textured, instead of completely straight. And I think it tore a little bit there, but otherwise I was pretty happy with it. So I think I might use this area without the tear. Of course, that might be okay. Because she's falling down a rabbit hole, so I thought this might actually be really nice. And then my husband brought up, while I was trying to make the background stationary and Alice moved down it, that actually if she was moving really fast, the background would be moving too. So I think I'm going to try that to give it a little more motion. So this time, as I set it up and shoot each frame, I'm going to be moving the background as well. Now I realized when I was editing this that actually this would be much easier to just do inside of Photoshop. Like if I photographed this, and then I could either photograph those or use the black and white that I'd already done on the computer and just animate them in Photoshop. So I guess that's my backup plan. If I shoot it a second time, it still doesn't look how I want, I might have to resort to doing it that way. But I like the idea of trying to do this in the camera, just more or less to practice setting it up as a Silhouette shadow box, and actually taking this series of photos to animate. So let me set up my tripod and stuff, and I will show and get the light turned on. I'll show you the next step. So this is my setup. Last year I invested in this Manfrotto tripod, which has the extension arm built in. It was a lot cheaper than trying to buy the pieces separately. I'd been using a PVC rig and it just really wasn't sturdy enough. There's lots of different ways you can rig up overhead shooting, but because I like to use like a big heavy SLR, nothing was really sturdy enough for me. Even this, because of the way I have to have it set up here, I have it weighted with, this is a heating pad here in the back, just so it doesn't topple over, because these have to be close together to make it tall enough, because I don't have a very wide angle lens on this little guy. So this is what I have right now. I would definitely say it was worth buying, but it didn't solve all of my problems instantly. There's just challenges with shooting overhead and trying to not get the legs in and get all the angles that you want and stuff like that. This doesn't come on the tripod. This is a new little accessory that I bought, but I'm not using it for this photo shoot, so I won't get into that. So this is the Canon 80D, and I bought it. I sold my Nikon, I bought it because it can talk to my phone, which is perfect for something like this. So the camera sets off a Wi-Fi signal, and then you touch here. Oh, is it recording? This should not be recording. Oops. Let's see. Let's see if it'll work now. So you touch here, and I can see what the camera sees. I clearly have it on the wrong setting because it's seeing black. I was shooting outside the other day. Let me put it on auto for a minute. Yeah. So I can see what the camera sees here. And that helps me a lot because with it up there, there's no way I'd be able to tell what I was getting without this. And I've got my light set up now. So as you can see, like, the paper doesn't cover the whole light box, but that seemed to work for me before. So I've just got to work with this and that, and then I'll have to put the settings manually in the camera so they won't change. If it's on auto, it could expose each photo differently. So I need to figure out what settings I want it to be on, because I'm shooting inside, not outside now, and make sure that I have the framing right. I'm going to be cropping to a square, so I don't really need the whole thing covered. So let me get that set up, and then I'll show you how I'm setting up and shooting each shot, each frame of the stop motion. So already I've had to extend this as far as it will go. This is on the edge of the table, and I've had to change the way I'm thinking about it. So when I shot this before, Alice fell this way, but because I want the background to move, that runs into my desk, and I can't really move that because that's where the camera has to be. So I'm going to make Alice fall this way, which will allow the background to shift also. And then I'm just looking here. The nice thing is this too can focus for me. Really, I should just set it up manually for this particular. Once I get it set the way I want to, I'll take it off autofocus, because last time the focus shifted a tiny bit. Like, there's not much difference between the background and Alice, but there's just enough with the depth of field I was having to use that it could slightly blur either the silhouette or the words. Which is not ideal. I want everything to be in focus, but it was just focusing a little bit odd before, probably because there's so much going on. So I'll make sure it's focused the way I want it to be, and then I will take it off autofocus. And I realize there's no reason to kind of start from scratch as far as the camera settings go, so I'm looking at what I shot last time because I was really happy with that, and I'm gonna replicate these camera settings. If you don't know how to do this, you go to a camera, you go to a picture that you've already taken, right click, get info. I'm not sure what the Windows equivalent is, but I know there is one. And then you're going to look at the metadata here, and it tells me what my shutter speed was, what my f-stop was, and all these different settings. And so I'm going to set that up now. Okay, what I actually found out is that I had some of the settings, but not all of them. So the way I see all of the EXIF data is I open this in preview. Again, there's got to be a Windows equivalent. I haven't had a Windows computer in years and years. Then you're going to go to Tools, Show Inspector, and here's absolutely everything that you could want to know. So the cool thing about this app is you can actually change most of the camera settings from within it. I'm going to shoot a little bit on the dark side because I can always lighten it, but if it's overexposed, there's no coming back from that. And I'm actually having to set the ISO a little bit differently because I don't have the fabric between the tissue paper. So the lighting situation is just a little bit different, but I'm keeping the f-stop and the shutter speed the same because I liked the depth of field that I had on the last photo. I have it set up how I want. What I'm going to do as a safety is I'm going to photograph this background moving, like just the background, just as a backup in case I end up deciding to do this digitally if the silhouette photos still don't turn out the way I like. So obviously my tripod is busy, so I've set you up here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. This is my camera, and that's the button that I push to have it take a picture. Ta-da, it took a picture. I'm going to set this right here, and then I'm just going to move the background incrementally. I'm going to take more photos than less, because last time I think I just didn't have quite enough frames. And right there where I accidentally shifted it, I'm just going to start over. I'm going to take one with it askew so I know I'm restarting the sequence. And let's see, I want to get as far up as I can to take the first one. And just try and pull straight down. Just finished taking a series of pictures of the background moving by itself, just as a safety in case the stop motion doesn't turn out this time. I can still make it happen digitally. And now I'm going to take a series of pictures of Alice with the items falling around her, and each time I'm going to move the background a little bit and move the pieces a little bit, and then hit my little take picture button here on the app. So what I found so far is that because I'm shooting vertically instead of horizontally, or because that's the way the background is moving, that I've had a lot of trouble visualizing where the image is. So I just put a little bit of washi tape to show me this is the Instagram area, because I want her to start where just her feet show, and I couldn't really kind of visualize where that was before. And I want to use all of the background, so that's why I'm shooting from the bottom, and I'm not using the top of the image as the top of the image. This is how I want to crop it inside Photoshop. So this is what I've rigged up so that I can see what I'm doing and I'm not flying blind here. So that's a wrap. I think it did go better than first time. It definitely helped to have this tissue paper glued down to the poster board. I shot 3 or 4 different versions. I hope one of them will work out, and I'll show you how I edit them together now. So I am pretty happy with the overall effect. I really like how the text looks this time with the wrinkles, but there are a couple of frames, like this one, seems like it's jumping too far. Basically, in the beginning, I was nice and patient. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So in the beginning, I moved her very slowly. I have so much more respect for stop motion artists after this. But suddenly, right here, that felt like too big of a jump for me, especially when it's moving at the right pace. So I think what I'm gonna do is a little Photoshoppery to add an extra frame or two here at the end just to make the animation a little bit more smooth. So that's my advice to anybody doing this is it's better to have too many frames, you don't have to include them all, than too few. But also it's just very difficult to track where you're moving things, and yeah, so let me get to this, and then I just have them in Photoshop here, and I have like this layer that's blank, and so I'm gonna do a little photo composite of the blank and this one, just to add an extra frame in there where she doesn't drop half the square so suddenly. Somehow I missed recording the process of editing the frames into a video. I use Final Cut Pro to do that. There's all kinds of different applications you can use to make stop motion, but that's what I usually use for YouTube videos and for my cinematography, so that's what I already had and was familiar with. I'm about to show you the final stop motion video. Let me know if you have any questions down in comments below. I'm happy to answer them. And I'm also going to leave a link to the blog post of all of the equipment that I mentioned in this video, just in case you were curious. Subscribe if you want to see more behind the scenes like this, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!